Mama, is that the man from the card?
Calder Vale was 6 minutes late to the Christmas lunch meant to make his future look settled. His father had chosen the word settled, a private dining room at Lark House, bank directors, 2 city donors. Blythe Arden beside him in a winter white coat, her engagement ring catching the pale December light. Calder sat with his phone in one hand. Halcyon Gate had already sent 4 alerts that morning. His father had sent 3 texts asking where they were. A holiday parade had swallowed the main road. Police barriers pushed the car east, away from Lark House, toward the old transit district Calder had not crossed on purpose in years. "Maple Exchange," Blythe said, looking out. "This will cost us 20 minutes. The car slowed beside the bus shelters. Wet umbrellas moved under the station lamps. A bus sighed at the curb. A child in a green hat dropped something near a taxi tire. That was when Calder saw the paper reindeer. Not a toy from a store. Folded paper. A narrow body, crooked antlers, legs too thin to stand. Calder knew the shape before he knew why his chest had tightened. The little boy darted toward it. His sister caught his sleeve first. Behind them, a woman reached for both children, one hand on a cracked suitcase handle, the other flat against a folder under her coat. Calder saw her face, Tessa Rook. 5 years vanished so quickly, he felt almost ill. The audit room, the empty apartment, the message asking him to trust her without proof. The winter he had told himself he was done asking why. Tessa lifted her head at the same moment. Blythe saw Calder's face before she saw the woman at the shelter. "Keep driving," she said. Calder did not move at first. For a second, his body obeyed the life he had built after Tessa. Stay seated, arrive at lunch, let Blythe take his arm. Let Garnet Vale introduce them as if marriage were a corporate announcement. That life was waiting 6 blocks away. Outside the window stood the woman he had trained himself not to search for. He had been certain about Tessa once. Not suspicious, certain. She had been in the building the night Halcyon Gate nearly collapsed. Her guest badge had opened the audit floor. Restricted files had moved while Calder was on the phone with his father. By morning, she was gone. Heartbreak did not arrive loud for Calder. It came as a failed call. An empty apartment, a soup pot left on the counter, and his father's voice saying innocent people did not run before sunrise. The banking contract survived. Tessa was missing. After enough years, certainty becomes furniture. You stop noticing the weight of it because you have arranged your whole life around it. Now one folded reindeer had pulled the room apart. The boy at the curb bent to pick it up. The girl held his sleeve until the taxi rolled forward. Tessa kept her hand on the suitcase, but her eyes were on Calder's car. Not pleading, not guilty, protective. Have you ever been sure you understood why someone left you? Calder had built a company, a public life, and an engagement on top of an answer he had never proved. The answer was standing in the cold with 2 children. Calder opened the car door. Slush reached the edge of Calder's polished shoe before he had both feet on the curb. "Calder," Blythe said behind him. He did not turn. The air smelled of wet wool, diesel, and roasted chestnuts. Behind him, his phone started vibrating again. Garnet, probably. Or Lark House. Or the version of Calder Vale that still believed a late lunch mattered. The little boy looked up first. He held the reindeer in both hands now. His thumb pressed hard against his middle finger, the same habit Calder had carried since boyhood when feeling too much and refusing to show it. The girl stepped closer to Tessa, not behind her, close enough to be ready. Calder could not ask the obvious question. He had come to Christmas lunch with the woman he planned to marry, and found the woman he had never stopped missing with twins who looked at him as if he were a story told too many times to be trusted. "Tessa," he said. Tessa's hand tightened over the folder beneath her coat. "Calder," the boy turned toward her. "Mama?" That word made the children reel. It filled 5 years with birthdays, fevers, school shoes, bus rides, and questions he had not been there to answer. If you are new here, welcome. If you've been here before, thank you for coming back. Stay with this one because Calder is about to learn that the truth does not arrive the way he expects it to. Like the video, subscribe, and tell me in the comments what you think Tessa was carrying in that folder. The boy lifted the paper reindeer. "Mama," he asked, "is that the man from the card?" Calder stopped breathing. Tessa closed her eyes for half a second. It was not enough time to hide anything. Calder saw the tiredness, the careful coat, the suitcase, the folder under her hand. He also saw that she had been waiting for a bus in weather his driver had complained about from inside a heated car. "We need to go," Tessa said to the children. The bus behind her opened its doors. Calder took one step forward. "Please don't." The word surprised both of them. Blythe came up beside him, her heels finding clean places in the slush, as if the city owed her a path. She put her fingers around Calder's sleeve, light enough to look tender, firm enough for him to feel the instruction. "Calder," she said, "your father is waiting." Tessa's expression changed at Blythe's voice. Not anger, recognition. Blythe looked at the children, the suitcase, the folder, and finally at Tessa. Her smile was professional. "Miss Rook," she said, "this is not the place." For the second time in 2 minutes, Calder felt the ground move under him. Tessa had not introduced herself. Calder had only said her first name. He had never told Blythe the surname aloud. In his memory, Tessa had become a closed room, and Blythe had never asked to open it. Yet here she was, in the cold outside Maple Exchange, naming Tessa like a file she had read before. The twins watched the adults with the terrible attention children give to fear they do not understand. Calder looked from the woman he had planned to marry to the woman he had believed had abandoned him, and the folded reindeer shook in Bram's small hand. If Blythe knew Tessa's name, what else had she known for 5 years? Before Calder Vale had a skyline office, he had a rented room above a closed pharmacy, 3 servers warming the floorboards, and 1 good shirt folded with spare cables. Tessa Rook first climbed those narrow stairs after Calder's 3rd failed demo. He had walked out with a rejection in his inbox before he reached the sidewalk. The man across the table had liked his market, not enough to risk money on a founder who looked as if sleep had become optional. By the time Tessa knocked, Calder had been staring at the error logs for 40 minutes without reading a line. "You forgot dinner," she said. He looked at the paper cup in her hand. "Soup is not dinner. Soup is dinner when the person receiving it owns 1 spoon." He wanted to smile. Pride held his mouth still. Tessa stepped around a stack of router boxes and set the cup beside his keyboard. She did not ask whether the meeting went badly. "They said the risk model was impressive," Calder said at last. "It means no." Tessa hung her damp coat over his only chair. "No means no from them. It does not mean no from everybody." He gave a tired laugh. "That is what people say when they do not have payroll due Friday. You have yourself 3 machines and a plant you killed in June. The plant lacked discipline. The plant lacked water." Tessa sat on the floor because the chair held her coat. She pulled a bus pass from her pocket and slid it across the boards. "For tomorrow," she said, "you are allowed to be tired without being finished." Calder looked at the pass as if it weighed more than money. Garnet Vale gave pressure and favors shaped like debt. Tessa gave soup, fare, and 1 sentence that did not ask him to become impressive before he deserved care. Years later, magazines would call Calder disciplined. They would never know discipline had sometimes looked like eating soup from a paper cup while Tessa read transit schedules aloud. Route 41 began as an inconvenience. Tessa took it home after late shifts at the city transit office. It was never on time, and she defended it anyway. She said 41 was stubborn, slow near the courthouse, generous near the hospital, and moody in rain. Calder pretended not to care. Still, he learned the schedule. On good nights, he walked her to the stop. On bad nights, she came to him with discarded bus maps and wrote reminders on the blank edges. Pay electric, call landlord, sleep before sunrise, eat something green. Calder began folding the used maps while she talked. At first, the shapes were bad. A crooked house, a bird with 1 wing shorter than the other, a square Tessa refused to accept as a star. He folded another one the next week. Better. Not good, but better. The reindeer came during their 2nd Christmas together, after the radiator failed, and Tessa arrived wearing 2 sweaters. Calder had no tree and no gifts worth wrapping. Tessa gave him a mug from the transit lost and found shelf. Calder gave her a card bought from the pharmacy below before it closed. Inside, he wrote the line as a joke because jokes were easier than promises. Route 41. Last stop, Maple Exchange. If you ever lose me, start there. Tessa read it twice. "You know that sounds serious," she said. He looked away first. She touched the card to his chest. "I know where to find you." He folded a reindeer from the route map to keep from answering. The antlers leaned too far left. The legs would not hold. Tessa set it beside the dead plant and called it beautiful. That became theirs. The route, the last stop, the paper animal too weak to stand alone. Halcyon Gate did not become powerful all at once. It grew in alerts, meetings, 1 bank pilot, 2 exchange contracts, a borrowed office with glass walls, and a payroll account with more than Calder's own name on it. Garnet Vale noticed when the numbers became respectable. At first, he called it pride. He invited Calder to dinners, where older men asked about fraud detection over steak. He spoke of the software as our advantage, our timing, our family discipline. "It is my company," Calder said once. Garnet adjusted his collar. "Everything you build carries the name that opened doors for you." Calder had opened most of those doors himself. He also knew his father could still make him feel ungrateful for owning a hand. Tessa saw the change before Calder admitted it. He began missing the walk to Route 41. Not every night. Just the nights when a board call ran long, or Garnet insisted that ambition was not measured in bus schedules. Tessa stopped teasing him about it after the 3rd time she waited alone under the Maple Exchange sign. One Friday, she came to the new office with soup. The receptionist did not know whether to let her in. Calder saw her through the glass. and felt gladness, followed by embarrassment. His investors were still in the conference room. Garnet was beside them. Tessa stood by reception in her transit jacket, holding dinner with both hands. "I should have called," he said. "You said you would be home by 9. He looked at the wall clock. It was after 11. Tessa's face did not accuse him. That made it worse. "Come upstairs," he said. "I can show you the new audit floor. I do not need glass to know what you built." Behind him, Garnet laughed in the conference room. Tessa looked past Calder toward the life gathering around his name. "Just make sure it does not build a wall around you," she said. He should have heard the warning as love. Instead, tired and watched and hungry for his father's approval, Calder heard doubt. "You think success changes people that fast?" "No," Tessa said softly. "I think pressure shows people where they already started bending." The words stayed between them all the way down to the street, where Route 41 pulled away before they reached the curb. The breach came 3 weeks before Halcyon Gate was supposed to sign its first banking contract. Calder remembered the hour because the office had gone too quiet. Not peaceful. Waiting. The audit floor held 27 monitors, a wall screen, and a glass room where visitors could sit without touching the restricted network. Tessa had come after her shift with dinner in a brown paper bag and her red scarf looped twice around her wrist. "You tied it wrong again," Calder said. "It is fabric. It survived." He left her in the visitor room with his guest badge clipped to her coat. She read bus schedules while he walked back to the audit table, where 2 engineers were arguing about a false positive report from a client exchange. Then Garnet called. Calder stepped into the hallway because his father hated background noise. Garnet wanted to know whether the banking board had asked about ownership. He wanted Calder to say the Vale name had helped. Calder said he was busy. Garnet said busy men still answered when family called. By the time Calder returned, the wall screen had changed. Restricted file movement, external mirror detected, audit room credential event. No one spoke for 3 seconds. The engineer nearest the console whispered, "That cannot be right." Calder looked toward the glass visitor room. Tessa's coat was still over the chair. The dinner bag was on the small table. The chair itself was empty. The guest badge log printed her number in bright white text. Blythe Arden arrived before sunrise with a leather folder and a voice that made panic feel badly dressed. She was not Calder's fiancée then. She was the crisis attorney Garnet had hired while Calder was still trying to understand which server had been touched and who had been inside the room. Blythe shook no one's hand for too long. She asked for the badge records, the access camera stills, the message exports, and a private room. Tessa was brought in through the side entrance because reporters had already heard the word breach. "I did not move anything," Tessa said. Blythe placed 3 printed pages on the table. "Your badge was active. I was waiting for Calder. Your messages mention his father pressuring him, the company changing him, and your fear that he would lose himself." Tessa stared at the pages. "You cut those. I arranged them. That is not the same thing." "It will be, once strangers read them." Tessa looked toward the glass wall. Calder stood on the other side with Garnet, too far away to hear. He looked furious, frightened, and young in a way she had not seen since the pharmacy room. Blythe lowered her voice. "If this becomes a public fight, the simple story wins. Founder's girlfriend, guest badge, resentful messages, stolen files. Calder will not believe that. Calder will have investors, directors, and his father telling him what belief costs." Tessa's hand moved to her stomach. She did not yet know the life there was 2 lives. She only knew she was late, scared, and standing in a room where money had already decided what sounded believable. Blythe slid the separation agreement forward. The paper had too many pages for something that was supposed to be mercy. Tessa read the first paragraph twice and understood almost none of it. She understood the number. She understood that taking it would make her look bought. She understood that refusing it would let Blythe say she had stayed close to Calder during an active investigation. "This is a confession," Tessa said. "No, it is distance. It says I agree not to contact him. For now." "For how long?" Blythe did not answer quickly enough. Outside the room, Calder turned toward them. Garnet put a hand on his shoulder. It looked fatherly from a distance. Tessa saw the weight in it. Blythe followed her gaze. "You think staying proves love? Today, staying makes you useful to everyone who wants his company dead." Tessa hated her for saying the one thing that sounded like sacrifice. She had watched Calder build Halcyon Gate from a room that leaked rain. She had counted coins for bus fare while he slept beside servers. She knew what losing it would do to him, and she was young enough to believe love meant carrying pain quietly if it kept the person you loved upright. She signed with a hand that did not feel like hers. Blythe took the pages before the ink dried. "He will ask for me," Tessa said. "Leave a message. Keep it short. Do not make promises you cannot explain." Tessa walked back to Calder's apartment before dawn. She packed 1 bag, left the soup pot on the counter because it was his, and recorded a message after 3 failed tries. "I am sorry. I cannot explain yet. Please trust me once without proof." Then she left before she could hear herself become a stranger. Calder reached the apartment 20 minutes after sunrise. The lock turned too easily. That was the first thing he remembered later. No chain, no music, no Tessa calling from the kitchen that he had forgotten his key again. Only the radiator ticking and the soup pot sitting clean beside the sink. Her side of the closet was empty. He played the message once, then again. On the third time, the words stopped sounding like Tessa and began sounding like evidence. "I am sorry," he called her. The number failed. He called again anyway. He went to the transit office, where a supervisor said Tessa had resigned. He went back to Halcyon Gate, where the banking contract was still breathing, only because Blythe had already built a version of events clean enough for directors to understand. Garnet found him in the audit room. "You need to face what happened," his father said. "You do not know what happened. I know innocent people do not run before sunrise." Calder hated him for it. He hated the cruelty, the certainty, the way Garnet could turn heartbreak into a boardroom sentence. But the company survived the day. The bank delayed its decision instead of withdrawing. Investors stayed on the call. Survival began to look like proof because proof was easier than grief. By evening, Calder had stopped defending Tessa aloud. He told himself he was waiting for facts. Weeks passed, then months. No explanation came. The wound hardened around one simple story. Tessa had been there, the files had moved, and she had vanished. It was not the truth. It was only the version that let him keep standing. Tessa learned about the twins in a clinic with blue chairs and a vending machine that kept humming through the nurse's questions. At first, she heard only pregnant. Then the nurse turned the screen, smiled gently, and said there were 2 heartbeats. 2. Tessa walked home with the printout folded inside her coat and one hand pressed over it as if weather could take it from her. She had already left Calder. She had already signed the agreement. Now the silence she thought she could carry had grown names she did not know yet. She tried the number Blythe's office had given her. It rang once and dropped. She tried again from a payphone near the clinic. Nothing. That night, she wrote Calder a letter on the back of a transit memo. Because good paper felt too formal for panic. "I need to tell you something. Please meet me. It is not about money." She mailed it to Halcyon Gate. It came back 2 weeks later with a forwarding sticker and no forwarding address. She mailed one to his old apartment. Returned. She left a note at the reception desk of the new office. The guard said he would pass it on. A week later, Blythe's assistant called and said all communication needed to go through counsel. Tessa said she did not have counsel. The assistant said nothing after that. By the time the second envelope returned, Tessa stopped crying immediately. That frightened her more than the tears had. 3 days before Christmas, Tessa took Route 41. She wore a borrowed coat that would not button over her stomach. Snow had hardened into gray ridges along the curb. Maple Exchange was crowded with people carrying shopping bags, bakery boxes, and flowers wrapped in paper. Tessa held Calder's card inside her glove. Route 41. Last stop, Maple Exchange. If you ever lose me, start there. She knew it had been a joke once. She also knew jokes became maps when every official door closed. She waited under the route sign until the first bus left, then the second. The cold moved through her boots and settled in her knees. Each black car passing the station made her lift her head before she could stop herself. Calder did not come. Near closing, a transit clerk stepped out of the break room with a paper cup of tea. "You have been here a long time," he said. Tessa almost lied. She was too tired. "I am waiting for someone who told me to start here if I lost him." The clerk looked at the card but did not reach for it. His name tag read, Orrin Pike. Does he know to look? That was the question that broke her. Orrin opened the break room door without asking another one. Tessa sat beside a stack of replacement schedules and held the tea with both hands. Before she left, Orrin wrote the date in the shift log because a pregnant woman waiting 4 hours at Maple Exchange felt like something the city should remember, even if no one important did. Orla was born first, quiet and watchful. Bram followed 6 minutes later, angry at the room and everyone in it. Tessa named them before she called anyone. She wanted one decision no lawyer, family name, or returned envelope had touched. Orla Rook. Bram Rook. Small, real, hers. The first years were measured in bus schedules and repair shifts. Tessa worked dispatch when she could, took weekend repair inventory when she had to, and learned which grocery stores marked bread down after 8. She was proud of the things she did not say in front of the children. She did not call Calder a coward. She did not call him guilty of believing the easiest pain. She told them he was real. When Orla asked why other children had fathers at school pickup, Tessa said, "You have one. He is far away from us right now." "Does he know us?" Bram asked. Tessa looked at the paper reindeer on the shelf, refolded so many times the antlers had softened. Not yet. So Calder became a story in their apartment. The man who wrote a route number inside a card. The man who once folded maps while their mother talked. The man who made a reindeer that could not stand but was kept anyway. Orla listened without trusting it. Bram loved the reindeer because it was small enough to carry. Every Christmas, Tessa considered throwing the card away. Every Christmas, she put it back in the folder. Bitterness would have been easier than hope, but she would not hand her children a father made only of anger. Back at Maple Exchange, Calder did not know any of this yet. He knew only the cold, the bus doors, the woman trying to leave, and Bram's question hanging in the air like a bell no one could unring. "Mama, is that the man from the card?" The words should have meant nothing to him. Instead, they found the place where Route 41 had been buried and pulled. Blythe's fingers tightened around his sleeve. "Calder," she said, "this is becoming public." Public, not painful, not wrong. Public. Tessa heard it too. Her eyes moved from Blythe's hand to Calder's face, and he saw the old calculation there. What would his world cost her this time? If you were standing there, who would you believe? With a cracked suitcase and 2 children, or the clean version money had been repeating for 5 years. Tell me in the comments, and if this story has you watching closely, like the video and stay with us. Garnet's black car pulled against the curb before Calder could answer. His father stepped out without an umbrella, anger keeping his posture straight. Behind him, Lark House waited with donors, directors, and a lunch designed to prove Calder's life had moved on. "What is this?" Garnet asked. Calder looked at Tessa's folder, Bram's reindeer, Blythe's controlled smile, and the father who had taught him certainty could be worn like a suit. "Lunch," Calder said, though his voice sounded strange to him. "We are all going to lunch." Lark House had prepared for a photograph, not a reckoning. The private dining room held white linen, polished silver, winter roses, and a seating chart Garnet had approved twice. Bank directors stood near the windows with drinks they had not paid for. 2 city donors discussed the parade. A reporter from a finance magazine waited near the fireplace because Garnet had promised him a tasteful family angle. Calder entered with Tessa, the twins, Blythe, and no sentence that could make the room behave. Conversation thinned. Garnet reached him first. "What are you doing?" "Changing the lunch." "This is not a street meeting." Tessa kept one hand near Bram's shoulder. Orla stood close enough to touch her mother's coat, but not behind it. The children looked small under the chandelier, and that made Calder angrier than any accusation could have. Blythe removed her gloves slowly, as if careful movement could restore authority. "Calder was startled outside," she said to the room. "There appears to be an old misunderstanding." Tessa looked at her. "Old?" The reporter lowered his glass. Calder heard the question the room was asking without words. Who was this woman? Why were there children? Why did Blythe know where to stand before anyone told her the story? He pulled out a chair for Orla. She did not sit. "It is all right," he said, too softly for anyone but her to hear. Orla studied him as if all right was a contract adults broke often. Garnet saw the exchange and turned pale with anger. "Calder, a word outside." "No." It was the first clean word he had spoken all day. Blythe tried to control the room because control had always rewarded her. "Miss Rook worked near Halcyon Gate years ago," she said. "The timing of her reappearance is unfortunate, especially with press present." Tessa gave a short laugh with no humor in it. "I was at a bus stop, with a folder, with records. Records can be arranged to tell emotional stories." Calder turned toward Blythe. "How do you know what is in the folder?" She held his stare for half a second too long. Garnet stepped in. "Enough. This family has already survived one attempted exploitation." Bram looked up at Tessa. "What is exploitation?" Tessa bent immediately. "A grown-up word you do not need." The answer quieted Calder more than shouting would have. Tessa was protecting the children from the room, while the room treated them as evidence, risk, or inconvenience. One of the bank directors cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should give you privacy." "Stay," Calder said. Garnet's eyes flashed. Calder did not look away. If the public version was clean enough to protect the company, the truth can be heard in the same room. Blythe smiled then, small and almost sad. "Truth is not always kind. Neither are lies," Tessa said. The words landed without drama. That was why they worked. Calder noticed Blythe's left hand near her briefcase. Not nervous, ready. As if she had spent 5 years expecting some form of this day, and still believed preparation could beat pain. Tessa opened the folder on the white linen table. She did not throw papers. She did not raise her voice. She laid each record down as if the order mattered, because ordinary life had been ignored once already. Returned envelopes first. Halcyon Gate, Calder's old apartment, the office address Blythe's assistant had said could receive legal correspondence. Red return marks crossed Tessa's handwriting. Calder touched the edge of one envelope but did not pick it up. "I wrote after I found out," Tessa said. "Found out what?" Her eyes moved to the twins. Calder understood and still could not breathe around it. Next came hospital records, not open toward the room, only enough for Calder to see dates. Then, transit receipts from Route 41. Then a photocopy from an old shift log with Orrin Pike's name beside the entry. Garnet scoffed. Receipts! Yes, Tessa said. Receipts, returned mail, a clerk's note, a clinic date. Small things people leave behind when they are too busy surviving to build a perfect case. She took out the Christmas card last. The paper had softened at the fold. Calder knew the front before she opened it. A cheap pharmacy card with a gold bell printed slightly off-center. Inside was his handwriting. Route 41. Last stop, Maple Exchange. If you ever lose me, start there. Bram leaned toward it. That is the card? Tessa nodded. Calder looked at the folded reindeer beside Bram's hand. Same route, same paper world, same promise, returning through children who should never have had to carry it. These came back to you? He asked. All but the card, Tessa said. I kept that because I wanted to believe you had meant it once. No one reached for the lunch. The soup cooled in shallow bowls. A server stood frozen near the sideboard with a tray he no longer knew where to place. That small helplessness, done without announcement, made the room feel even more divided. On one side were people trained to manage appearances. On the other were people who had kept receipts because receipts were all they could afford. Calder noticed Orla staring at the roses. Do you like them? He asked. She shook her head. They look tired. Tessa almost smiled. Calder did not. He looked at the flowers Garnet had ordered to make the lunch elegant and saw how much effort had gone into making his life look clean, while the truth waited in envelopes with red return marks. Blythe reached for the separation file before Calder saw the label. It was a small movement. A gloved hand, a corner of cream paper, a tab marked with Tessa's surname and the old halcyon case number. Calder looked at her hand. Where did you get that? Blythe stopped moving. For the first time since Maple Exchange, she looked less polished than careful. It was part of the breach file, she said. I never saw it. You were not in a position to review everything. Tessa's face changed. Not surprise. Recognition sharpened by 5 years of waiting for someone else to see the shape of the thing. Blythe closed the folder halfway. She signed before sunrise. Calder turned slowly. Before sunrise? The room went still. Tessa had not said that. The agreement on the table had not been read aloud. Calder had never known the hour. Blythe had offered it too quickly, like a person repeating a room she had once owned. How would you know that? Calder asked. Blythe looked toward Garnet. That look did more damage than a confession. Garnet's mouth tightened. This is not the place. That is what she said at the bus stop, Calder said. Orla stepped closer to Tessa. Bram held the reindeer with both hands. Calder faced Blythe across the table, past the roses, the untouched plates, the watching directors, and the life his father had arranged until it looked inevitable. What did you do before sunrise 5 years ago? Blythe looked toward the twins instead of answering. For Calder, the silence was an answer with its coat still on. Calder wanted the truth to arrive clean. He wanted one sentence that made the past stand still long enough for him to judge it. Tessa refused to give him that comfort. Do not turn this into a hearing, she said. The dining room had emptied of everyone except those who could not leave the damage behind. The directors were gone. The reporter was gone. Orrin had been called from Maple Exchange after Calder sent a driver and a message that said only, Route 41. Please come if you remember. Blythe stood near the window. Garnet sat as if sitting had been forced on him. Calder looked at Tessa. I need to know what she said to you. No, Tessa said. You want to know which words make you innocent. He flinched. She closed the folder with both hands. I came back, Calder, more than once. His voice dropped. Why did you not stay? Because I was 27, pregnant and afraid. Because she showed me messages that could be cut into motive. Because your father was already speaking as if the company mattered more than any person in it. Because I believed leaving would keep you from losing everything. You should have trusted me. I asked you to trust me without proof. You chose not to. The line struck him because it was his own wound returned with another side. Tessa looked toward Orla and Bram, seated now with cups of water and untouched bread rolls. They knew you from paper, not promises, she said. That is what I could give them without teaching them to hate you. Calder looked at Bram, who was turning the reindeer over in his hands, careful not to tear the fold. He thought of all the expensive objects he had protected in vaults, climate-controlled rooms, and legal structures. None of them had been guarded with the devotion that child gave to a piece of paper. I thought you took money and disappeared, he said. I did take money. The honesty stunned him. Tessa did not look away. Rent was due. I was sick every morning. I had no lawyer, no family with a board seat, no clean way to fight people who had already decided how I would sound. I took what made me look worst because it was also what kept me housed long enough to have them. That was another truth Calder had not wanted. Survival did not always arrive looking noble. Orrin Pike entered Lark House as if the carpet might object to him. He wore his transit jacket, the one with a repaired cuff, and a name tag rubbed dull around the edges. He paused at the doorway when he saw the flowers, the silver, and Garnet's expression. Calder met him halfway. "Thank you for coming." Orrin nodded once. "You said Route 41. Tessa stood. "Mr. Pike?" His face softened. "I remember you." No one in the room moved. Orrin took a folded photocopy from his jacket pocket. "I checked the old shift log before I came. 3 days before Christmas, 5 years back. I wrote that a pregnant woman waited at Maple Exchange for 4 hours. I gave her tea. She had a card." Garnet made a sound under his breath. Orrin looked at him then. Not bravely exactly, but steadily. Some people think a thing is small because it happened to someone with no title. It was not small to her. Calder took the photocopy. The handwriting was plain. Date, time, Route 41. Pregnant passenger waiting for Calder Vale. Given tea in break room. It was not dramatic. It was worse. It was a person doing his job carefully enough to preserve the day Calder had missed. "She waited on Route 41, Orrin said. Tessa looked down. Calder could not make the line fit inside the life he had lived. While he had been learning to sound certain in boardrooms, she had been waiting at a bus stop with his card in her glove. "I did not know," he said. Orrin's answer was quiet. "That does not mean nobody tried to tell you." The sentence stayed in the room after Orrin finished speaking. Calder had built a company on signals other people missed. Suspicious transfers, false accounts, tiny inconsistencies in clean reports. He had taught machines to doubt what looked easy. Yet in his own life, he had accepted the easiest version because it spared him from choosing between the company and the woman who had loved him when the company was only heat under the floorboards. He set the photocopy beside the card. "Thank you for writing it down," he said. Orrin shrugged, uncomfortable with gratitude. Somebody should have. Calder's first mistake as a father was thinking the word could be reached through proof. He looked at the hospital dates, the returned letters, Bram's face, Orla's guarded eyes, and some part of him wanted a result, a declaration, a clean door opening. The children gave him none of that. Bram trusted buses more than black cars. When Calder offered to have his driver take Tessa and the twins home, Bram shook his head hard enough that the reindeer bent in his fist. "The bus knows our stop," he said. Calder almost said the car was safer. He stopped when Orla moved behind Tessa's coat. He had raised his voice without hearing himself do it. That small step back shamed him more than Garnet's lies, Blythe's silence, or the room full of witnesses. Orla was not deciding whether he was rich. She was deciding whether he was safe. Calder crouched, leaving space between them. "I am not angry with you," he said. Orla did not answer. "Mama, is he angry with us?" she asked. Tessa's face tightened. "No, sweetheart." Bram lifted the paper reindeer. "Is this why you kept the card?" Tessa brushed his hair back. "Partly." Calder looked at the folded paper, at the child holding it, and understood that the twins were not evidence against anyone. They were children who had been handed pieces of an adult sorrow and made them into a toy because children try to make homes from whatever they are given. "May I ride the bus with you?" he asked. Orla looked at Tessa first. That was the first lesson. Permission would not come from money. It would come slowly through the people he had failed to reach. Tessa did not answer for the children. "You can ask again at the stop," she said. It was not yes. It was better than yes, because it did not pretend the damage had vanished. Calder stood carefully, aware of his height, his coat, his voice, every symbol of a life that could swallow a small room without meaning to. He had spent years becoming impossible to ignore. Now he had to learn how not to crowd the people he wanted most to see him. The apology Calder owed was too expensive to be paid in public. He made the first part at Maple Exchange, not Lark House. Tessa had insisted on taking the bus back because Bram was tired and Orla wanted the normal way home. Calder followed in his car and arrived before them, standing under the Route 41 sign with his coat open to the cold. Garnet did not come. Blythe did not come. For once, no one stood close enough to translate his life for him. When Tessa stepped down from the bus, Calder did not reach for her. "I accepted the version that let me survive," he said. She held the twins' hands. "Yes. I told myself I was waiting for proof. Really, I was waiting for pain to become simple." Tessa's eyes filled, but she did not rescue him from the sentence. "I should have found you," he said. "I should not have vanished. You were boxed in. I still left you with a wound and no truth." There it was. No clean innocence, no perfect victim, no villain large enough to carry every failure. Blythe had built the wall. Garnet had paid for it. Calder had lived behind it because the house was comfortable. Tessa had mistaken silence for protection and learned too late that love can wound while trying to save. Calder looked at the twins. "I do not want a title I've not earned." Bram leaned against Tessa's side, half asleep. "Then start smaller," Tessa said. "Where?" She looked at the bus shelter, the wet pavement, the route sign, the ordinary place where the truth had waited longer than he had. "Show up," she said, "without making us prove we are worth the trip." Consequences came without a speech. Blythe left Calder's life before the engagement announcement could be withdrawn by anyone else. The ring returned in a courier box with no note. Her firm opened an internal review after Calder's counsel requested the old breach file, the separation agreement, and every communication tied to Tessa Rook. Blythe did not become a public monster. She became something harder for her to bear, a professional woman whose careful record no longer obeyed her. Garnet tried to call it family protection. Calder met him once in the Halcyon Gate boardroom, the room where his father had always sounded largest. "I did what was necessary," Garnet said. "You did what was useful." "That company would have died." "Then maybe it should have limped honestly." Garnet looked older when anger failed to move Calder. "You would throw away your name over her?" Calder thought of Orla stepping behind Tessa's coat, Bram gripping a paper reindeer, Tessa waiting 4 hours under the Route 41 sign. "No," he said. "I am done throwing people away for the name." Money could have made the next part ugly. Calder could have sent gifts, lawyers, school offers, a better apartment, a life delivered so quickly it crushed the one Tessa had built. He did not. He started smaller. He waited at Maple Exchange on Wednesday because Bram had a dentist appointment and still preferred the bus. He learned Orla liked peas but refused carrots. He stood outside their building until Tessa invited him in, and when she did not, he went home without making disappointment her problem. Showing up, he learned, was not the dramatic act. Returning without demand was. Some days, the return looked foolishly small. He bought the wrong cereal and learned Bram hated marshmallows unless they came from someone else's bowl. He sent a winter coat that was too expensive, accepted Tessa's refusal, and came back the next week with gloves from the same store she used. He asked Orla about school and received one-word answers for nearly a month. The first time she gave him 2 sentences, he called no one to celebrate. He simply remembered both. The real Christmas lunch happened weeks late in the transit break room. There were no winter roses, no bank directors, no reporter near the fireplace. The table had a scratch down the middle, one uneven leg, and a stack of replacement schedules pushed against the wall. Orrin brought paper cups because the good mugs had disappeared years ago. "Lost and found rules?" Calder asked. Orrin gave him a look. "Do not start." Orla sat beside Tessa and removed every carrot from her soup with the focus of a surgeon. Bram argued over the last roll, lost, negotiated, and somehow ended with half. Calder watched the exchange like a man studying a language he should have learned earlier. Tessa noticed. "You can laugh. I was not sure." "At Bram, usually safe." Bram looked up. "What?" "Nothing," Tessa said. Calder took a fresh Route 41 schedule from the stack. His first fold was wrong. The second was worse. Bram leaned over, offended by the craftsmanship. "That is not a reindeer." "It is early in the process." Orla slid one removed carrot toward him. "Antler." For the first time all day, Tessa laughed without checking who might use it against her. Calder folded slowly. When the reindeer finally stood, crooked but standing, he placed it in the center of the table. Tessa looked at it for a long moment. "Children should not have to preserve adult sorrow," she said. "Then this one can be for lunch," Calder said. Bram approved the reindeer by giving it the other half of his roll. Orrin raised his paper cup. "To lunch that actually got eaten." Tessa lifted hers. Orla lifted hers after checking that Bram was not taking her soup. Calder lifted his last. For years, Calder had mistaken witnesses for threats. Now a witness sat at the table and made the room easier to breathe in. Orrin did not belong to the family, not exactly, but the story would have been poorer without the man who wrote down what powerful people forgot to ask. Calder was not handed the word father. No record could do that for him. No apology could speed it up. No Christmas lunch, however warm, could turn 5 missed years into a story with no cost. He earned smaller words first. "Wait, again. Maybe. Come in." Orla was the first to take his hand at a crosswalk, and even then she let go once they reached the curb. Bram asked if black cars could learn bus stops. Tessa allowed Calder to walk them to Maple Exchange one Friday and stayed quiet while he listened instead of filling the silence with promises. Romance returned carefully, not as a grand claim, not as a reward for suffering. It returned in the space between two people who had stopped asking pain to prove love. Tessa let Calder sit beside her on the bench while Christmas lights blinked above the station. He told her he had kept the soup pot. She told him she had almost thrown away the card every December and never managed it. He did not ask whether that meant she still loved him. Once, he would have wanted the answer because answers made him feel safe. Now he let the silence hold what neither of them was ready to name. Tessa's shoulder rested near his, not touching at first. When the wind moved colder through the station, she did not move away. "I do not know what we become," she said. "Neither do I. That is new for you. I am trying to improve." She smiled, and it was not forgiveness yet. It was a door left unlocked. The moral was not that love fixes everything. Love protected by silence can still do harm. Truth that costs nothing is usually only performance. The beginning of repair is the moment someone stops defending the comfortable version and stays long enough to hear the one that hurts. If this story moved you, like the video, share it with someone who believes truth matters. Subscribe for more stories, and tell me in the comments which moment stayed with you. At Maple Exchange, the next Route 41 bus sighed open. Bram ran ahead. Orla waited for Tessa. Calder held back until both children looked at him. "Are you coming?" Bram asked. Calder looked at Tessa. She nodded once. This time, when the doors opened, he did not miss the bus.